All right, this is that point where we say, are we live? I don't know. Are we live? We're going to just assume we're live because every time I do that, that conversation's come up. So we're live. Thank you for joining us. This is Midwest Elevation. We are having weekly conversations to raise the collective conscious. And this week's guest, I'm so excited that she is here today, is Tracy Blehm. Tracy is a success mindset mentor and self-proclaimed comedian. I love that, by the way. She mentors soul-driven women entrepreneurs with big dreams to put success systems in place to back up the miracle moments so that they can balance their businesses and their personal life, create time freedom, and live guilt-free. Who the heck doesn't want those things? I know I sure do. She does this through her Ignite Your Life program, which will have you starting fires in no time. But I am super excited today because we are talking about, let me get my stop share and pull us here together. We are actually talking about wealth through failure, which, you know, is an interesting concept, right? Especially when you're a success coach, right? It's all about success. Well, how does failure play into this role? I cannot wait to dig into this. So welcome, Tracy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I love talking about money and wealth and all the aspects of it. And so excited to be here with you and sharing some tidbits with you. I'm going to also share some clearings, which is kind of part of the secret sauce of my success coaching. So clearings for me, just to kind of give you that up front, because once we get rolling on the steps, you'll hear me say it. And then if you're like, what the heck is that woman talking about? I'm not crazy. Lots of times accused of being crazy. But what it is it's just these clearings. So clearings are like a reverse affirmation. So instead of saying, I am happy, healthy, and successful, it is everywhere I'm choosing not to be happy, healthy, and successful. I destory, deleted, untangle, unwind, dissipate, and release.
Woo!
We are catching the known and the unknown. Sometimes we're aware that we are choosing to stay stuck, and sometimes we actually have no idea. Even if people are telling us, we have no idea. So
sometimes we need it very loud
we
and
need
very
it
clear.
like a throat punch. We need it so loud sometimes. And, you know, knock on wood, I'm surrounded by some beautiful ladies who are more than willing to throat punch the consciousness into me sometimes, and I do the same for them. Now, not saying I
I
do that
love
for
it.
my coaching clients, true story, sometimes do, but it's really about getting the clarity and awareness of what we're choosing on,
Yeah.
you know. So when it comes to wealth through failure, is people don't realize that with every failure we gain awareness. Awareness then dictates our choice. Our choice then decides what we take action on, and the actions create our success.
Yes.
So everywhere the WTF is coming up for you right now, let's do a clearing right now. Will you destory, delete it, unwind, untangle, dissipate, and release it? So this is where you lovely beings would go, yes, yes, Tracy, I would.
Yes.
So
Yes,
that's
please.
how we're gonna roll here today. So let's go through some of the wealthy failure steps. And along the way, I'm going to clear them for you so that by the time we're done this beautiful conversation, you are feeling lighter. There's a little bit more brightness in your awareness. There's a little bit more flashlight shining on the stuff that's being stuck. And beautiful Renee, if I'm saying something and you're like, this is what's going through my head, sister, please say so, because what we'll do is we'll clear it at the same time so that we can give a little bit of boost to you and to everyone else that's listening. Because if one talks about it, it's because the collective consciousness is thinking about it. Okay.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. So the first thing that happens with how we cannot create wealth through failure is we fear failure itself. So then we don't take the steps, right? So this can be What happens if they think I'm crazy? What happens if I screw up? What happens if I bomb? What happens if I can't maintain the success? All of that kind of stuff is how we will talk ourselves out of doing it. So everywhere you guys have ever talked yourself out of your success because you don't want to do the failure step, which is required. Will you destory, delete it, dissipate
Why
it,
is it required?
untangle, unwind through all time, space, dimension, and reality? Waiting for my yes, Renee. Okay.
Yes.
So let me give you some examples. So in my previous life, I worked in architecture and design. Then I got into voodoo, complementary medicine, or whatever you want to label it. And then I ran a clinic for 10 years, specializing in fertility and all kinds of stuff. I failed so many times at so many things that now I've gotten to the point where I just laugh. I'm like, wow, that was so awesome. It was so sucky.
Epic failure.
It was beyond epic. It was like legendary failure right there. And it would be interesting to watch my team kind of contract their energy because they felt rejected or they felt less than or whatever. And I go, no, 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 no. Now we get to harvest the knowledge. What did we learn? What would we do different? What are we aware of? What happened energetically? What happened physically? Right? Because once we had that awareness, we could change the perspective and go at it again. And sometimes the awareness is, I freaking hate doing this, which means we're in the wrong lane.
Right.
So everywhere you're refusing the failure and the awareness that comes with it so that you can stay in the wrong lane to your success, will you destory, delete it, untangle, unwind, dissipate, and release? That one feels good in the body. So true story. I remember once coming up with this fabulous Christmas deal where my clinic was across the road from AAA mall in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. AAA means all the hoity-toity shops. So I decided that me and the delicious little elves that worked with me, we would go over to this mall with bags of Hershey's Kisses and hand out Christmas kisses to everyone we passed. But the little tag was a coupon for Lazia, my clinic. I did not see all the graphics on the doors that said no soliciting. I think we got out about 6 kisses before security came and escorted me from the mall and banned me for 3 months. That was a legendary fail.
Oh my God. Yeah.
My team was so mortified because I literally said to the security guys, well, do you guys at least want the chocolate? And they're running, like they were running like escaped convicts with the eyes on freedom to get out of there. They were so embarrassed. And I go, I didn't know. I wasn't aware, which is how I missed the graphics. I was in the wrong lane because nowhere in the mall was I going to find a fertility client.
Sure.
Randomly walking around, right? So
Yeah,
that was the awareness was, great idea, wrong vehicle. So everywhere you guys have had great ideas, but you're in the wrong vehicle and it failed, so therefore you won't use the idea again. Would bring you to the success. Will you destory, delete it, untangle, unwind, dissipate, and release?
Yes.
Yes. So the next step or the next key to wealth through failure is taking 2 steps back every time it bloody happens. And we do this, right? We will do something and it is a horrific fail. And then we bitch all over to everyone that hears with such emotion and everything. And what we're doing energetically is we're putting it out there to the universe. Bring me more things to complain about, more failures like this. Push me backwards. Don't pull me forwards. So this can be little things like, let me give you another example. So when I created this fertility program, it was the ultimate fertility blueprint program for my clinic. And I decided I was going to go out and teach this at doctors' offices, because when people want to get pregnant, what's the first step they do? They go to their doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So what I didn't do is I didn't research the flavor of clinics I was promoting to. And any clinic will let you come in and do a lunch and learn because you're bringing them food.
Right.
True story, right? So anyways, so I put on this wham bam, thank you man, snazzily little presentation. And the doctors, literally the first few, chewed me into pieces because they thought I was a crackpot, because I was talking about energy work and Reiki and acupuncture and abdominal massage and this. And I had done all the research. I had the medical journals with highlights and tags and all this stuff. So when I left, did I feel like a bag of crap? Yes. Did I curl up in the fetal position in my bedroom and cry for a few hours about my horrific mistake? Yes. True story. But then I got up and went, what's right about this I'm not getting? What awareness am I not choosing that if I would choose it would create greater success here? So when I started asking those questions to again harvest the awareness from the failure, it was, why did you go to those clinics? You should have gone through, done proper research versus, hey, there's one on the corner, let's go there.
Right.
This is totally what I did. I'm like, I'm in the southeast of Calgary. We'll just go to every southeast clinic in Calgary. Oh, there's 200. I'm buying 200 lunches this month. Let's go, right? So that was okay. And the other awareness that I received from that failure was, take your bloody time. To some degree.
Oh,
We don't want to use
this is the thing I am learning. This is the thing.
Breathe into it, lean into it, do your research. What do you need to know? What do they need to hear? Are they even in alignment with your offering or who you be? These people were not. And then once I shifted that, and I had this beautiful client, he had had some struggles and we did some weird voodoo for him, not for fertility. He was just a random. And
I love that you call it voodoo.
He was a random, he was a pharmaceutical rep. So then because I had helped him with some situations, he's like, I'm going to coach you on this. I'm like, let's do it. And I got blessed with presenting at a clinic that the chief medical director for the province was there that day. And she came.
Wow.
Sat through my presentation, said to me, you're missing this and this, and then people would actually buy this, and stomped out. And he was upset because he had never managed to get to talk to her. But the reason why I share that for you is because I was willing to reap the rewards from the failure and go out there with guns a-blaring, ready to go again, because I'm like, okay, this is a successful concept. The vehicle I was in was incorrect. Yeah. So everywhere you think that can't happen for you, or you can't handle that level of humiliation, will you destory, delete it, unwind, untangle, dissipate, and release it?
Yes.
Yes. I look at it this way. In Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where I'm from, there's 1.25 million people in Calgary. They can't all hate me.
No.
So what have I got to lose? Right? There's someone out there who will think, wow, she's got the goods, baby. And then if you take that further into other cities or your province or your country or your state or whatever, there are people there for you, for your success. So everywhere you've decided that you have to get it right or there's no success because no one will like you, instead of knowing that the universe will bring you a few to bomb on so you can step fully in, will you destory, delete it, untangle, unwind, dissipate, and release?
Yes.
Yes. If you're gonna bomb, do it with gusto. Because then you get it over with.
Right.
Right? And even that, when I say you get it over with, I remember doing this trade show once, and I have this, full transparency, I love going in and outdoing everybody in a trade show. So I will go to the trade show the year before and I'll look at whoever's top dog, and then whatever they're doing, I'll multiply it by 10. Like I want to be the booth, or I did, I don't do booths anymore. That was for the clinic, that everybody walks away and went, did you see that booth? Right? Could be the competitive architect in me. Possibly. Yes, it is. So I will bring my own carpet. Not kidding. So anyways, I remember doing this, and I decided that when you walked into this conference room, I had bought all the booths along the back wall because I knew where people were entering. And I had rented these giant screens so that when you walked in that conference room, all you saw was my logo, right? I didn't bring a grounding cord. And I blew the fuse on the computer and took out a whole bank of electrical. That was a bit of an epic fail. None of my lighting worked. Nothing. It was so awesome.
Oh boy.
Right? So what did I harvest from that failure?
Yeah, what was the lesson learned there?
Have a backup cord, you moron. That was the lesson, right? Because I had to panic phone my husband and go, I need you to get your butt to Home Depot. I need a 75-foot cord, or as many as we can link together without taking the opposite side of the conference room out, so that I can plug in my monitors. And I need you to buy me a new computer. Now, knock on wood, I had it all backed up, but I think it was like from 10 till 4, and at 2 o'clock, we got all our parts back. So for 2 hours, it was pure magic. That was okay. It was still 2 hours of pure magic. To me, it was hilarious. So the rest of the team was another event with Tracy, right? Like it was just, sometimes I think they just signed up because they're like, we got to just go see what she's doing. Right?
Yeah, what's going to happen next?
But the fun part about it, where I knew that that mindset and that thought pattern was working, was when I started coaching other clinics and realized the stuff they were dealing in their year 10, I did in my first year, because I was willing to fail more. I was willing to fail at new things. I was willing to have segmented failures. And what I mean by that is, say I want to take up baking. My first cake is a brick. Cool. My second cake is not a brick, but it's raw in the middle. Still a failure, but improving. My third cake actually turns out okay, but the icing sucks, right? And you just walk your way up through the failures to your success versus baking a brick and going, I'm not a breaker, I'm done. So everywhere you're not willing to baby step up your failures to success, will you de-story, delete it, untangle, unwind, dissipate, and release it across all time, space, and dimension?
Yes.
Yes.
Ma'am. Yeah.
Literally. I will try anything once. Because why not? I might fail at it. I might learn that I never want to do it again. Or I might find that I'm addicted to it and let's keep this crazy train going. Right? Because now for me to put on a trade show and walk out of there with a ton of leads is nothing. And, you know, I've taken courses, I read books, I watch webinars and all of that, but sometimes it does not fully prepare you for that street smart that you gain when you're in the thick of it.
Yes. And we're getting yeses in the comments there. Yes.
Right? You can pre-clear. Everywhere I'm terrified of failing at this trade show, I de-story and delete it. Everywhere I'm terrified of failing at this Facebook challenge, this product launch, this discovery call, this career change, right? I de-story, delete it, dissipate, unwind, untangle. Have you ever bombed an interview? I've bombed them so bad that in my head, I would hear, you should just walk out now. And I'm like, I can't, I'm going down with the ship. Right? I'm so going down, and they're gonna talk about me at their supper table tonight going down. Right? And then when I leave, I'm like, what could I have done different? Right? What could I have chose differently? How could I prepare differently? You know, and another way to look at it is, you know how we have those conversations after the fact? Oh, I should have said this, and then they'd say this, and I'd say this, and then I would win. And
Right.
take that same process of negative talk, change it into positive talk, and said, when they said this, next time I'll say this, and then they'll say this, but change it so it works for
One
you.
little shift. Yeah.
Yeah. Shift the failure into your success. So everywhere you've done that in the past, and you're going to do it in the future and forget the shift, will you destory, delete it, untangle, unwind, dissipate, and release?
Yes.
Yes. So easy, right?
It is.
So when you're taking a look at your failures on your way to success, it's important that when you do your self-reflection, you are willing to be 100% honest with what is. So let me clarify that. Don't make it worse than it is. Don't make it less than it is. In other words, don't brush it off. Like when I say, oh my God, that was a legendary fail, it probably was a legendary fail, right? But I'm not going to wallow in it.
Yeah.
I'm then going to go, okay, what could change? And I could tell the level that people were willing to receive wealth by when we would do the harvest. So I'm going to go back to the trade show example. Somebody here must be wanting to do a trade show that we're kind of into this. Is afterwards we do the trade. So we do the trade show of the weekend. Then on Monday in the staff meeting, we'd have this, little meditation and we'd go into it. And I go, okay, let's get into it, guys. Where were the failures? And what are we going to change for next time? And if all they wanted to do was bitch, 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 and they weren't talking, elevating, see what I did there for you? If we didn't talk about change, what could be improved, what could be just polished ever so slightly. If they weren't willing to talk about that, I knew they wouldn't be successful at the next one because they weren't willing to have success through their failure. Right? So everywhere you guys get stuck in the bitch, 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 knit, 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 instead of this really sucked, and I would do this next time. We would do story, delete it, untangle, unwind, dissipate, and release.
Yes.
Because we all do it.
We do. Well, and it's like, how do we, it's an ingrained habit for so many reasons in so many ways, and like not getting re-stuck in that, oh, it was horrible, a failure,
Mm-hmm. So I carry a little notebook when I go do events, or if, like, even after this, I will go in and go, why didn't I shut up a little bit more?
I'm loving your energy. It's great.
Should probably let Renee talk, but I didn't. So I have a little book, right? Dollar store. And I will write in there, what did I screw up? What would I shift? What would I do different? What would I enhance? And then I will take, so for example, we're deliciously together here for however long. Feel free to cut me off. And I will take 15, 20 minutes and just sit with it. I won't do it next week. This is a shorter time period. So I've booked the time with you and your lovely beings. And then I've booked a time afterwards to do a follow-up with myself. Right? So when you do a trade show and it's over the weekend, on Monday, before you get into your busy work, you would want to do a good 30, 45 minutes of reflection, and reflection with everyone that was involved, right? So say you rented stuff, how could that rental have gone better? Your delivery and setup people, if you have that, how could that have gone better? Is there a system you could have done that would have smoothed that out? If you're bringing team players, for example, if I brought therapists, sometimes my awareness is never bring that therapist again, right? And it's not a negative, it's just they're not trade show people, that didn't work, right? Or, next time I need to prep them this way, or next time I need to do this. Or I remember one year we had dropped, I think it was $10,000 on the booth, and I had a dress code so that no matter where my team was, you knew they belonged to this company. So it was kind of extra branding and marketing. So I had said, You know, the colors where you needed to be green tops, black bottoms. Black bottoms could not be yoga pants. They could be a long skirt past the knees, no minis, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And this girl showed up in too tight of dress pants, and she was doing chair massage. But when she went over to massage, her shirt was too small. I think she borrowed her kids' clothes. Everything was too small. And when she bent over to rub, her lime green thong panties would come up and show. And so every time she'd rub someone, I would burst out laughing because it was like dinner and a show, right? That wasn't helping the company. I'm like, why do you need everything so tight on you? And you're doing this massage, and can you not feel that riding up? And because everybody can see it riding up, right? So I was laughing. So then all I did was write it in my little book, need to make a note about too tight of clothes and little teeny weeny underwear showing. That's it, right? It didn't need, to me, that aspect of marketing was a tiny fail. Short circuiting the wall, bigger fail. All still fails, all still massive learning, right? I remember I invited a lady who was renting one of the rooms in the back, and she had this organic skincare. And I said, she asked if she could come and lay it out. And I go, absolutely, didn't think twice of it. So she went out and prettily fanned out these little makeup samples. It was stunning. And she turned, and the first person that walked by went like this and scooped it all into their bag and walked off with it. I was howling. Like, I have a weird, that I don't know if that's my trigger, that I start laughing when stuff goes sideways. Because who would have ever thought,
I'm a nervous laugher.
Right? Who would have ever thought that the first person through would take every single sample you owned? She didn't leave any, she put them all out. So she's like, freaking out and everything. And now what do? I go, well, now you talk to people. Now you phone and see if there's other supplies. And I said, the awareness from this failure is stand and hand them out. Talk to people. And instead, she wanted to stay stuck in the story that humanity was greedy. And I'm like, no. So everywhere you guys are blaming humanity for poor behaviors as to why you're not getting your success. And hint, hint, you're part of humanity. Will you de-story, delete it, unwind, untangle, dissipate, and release?
Yes.
When something isn't occurring for you, losing my ability to speak here today, it's because it's a system failure, not a person failure. So everywhere you've decided that you're the failure, so therefore you won't use it to gain your success. Will you all de-story, delete it, untangle, unwind, dissipate, and release?
Yeah.
How fun, right?
Yeah.
You want to know why we're chubby? We have a food system failure. We have an exercise system failure. Why is our marketing not working? There's a marketing failure. Why does our husband not dote on us? There is a command failure. A marriage system failure, right? So then it's, okay, let's take a look. Okay, let's see if this new way will work. Kind of a little bit better. Okay, what else could we do? Or that got worse. Okay, so we need to go back to ground zero with that failure, start there again.
Right. It seems to me then that the piece that you take out really is the judgment. So, yeah, like, you know, I mean, the shit's gonna happen.
Always.
Always. We are not immune to stuff going wrong and stuff not working.
Nope. No. And when you embrace it, the stuff not working happens quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everywhere, everyone went, oh my God, no. All that energy around that, we all de-story, delete it, dissipate, release, untangle, unwind. Because it means you're moving up the success ladder through failure quicker. We were robbed. We had a roof leak. We had a fire next door. We had vandalism. I had therapists that were stealing, like they'd go into the retail store and just take cups of crystals and dump in their purse and walk out. The security camera would catch them. I'm like, well, that's awesome. I just laugh. I'm like, wow, they were very aggressive in that dump. I can't wait till they come to work tomorrow and I get to show them this. And I would literally do that. I'd be like, come here, I got to show you something that's really awesome. And I'd play the tape and I'd be laughing the whole time. And I'd go, this is so awesome because now I get to fire you. I really struggled.
Best day ever.
I really struggled with having normalcy to some degree because I'm like, that was a hiring system or a security system failure or a mentoring system failure or building loyalty or cultural system failure. They were not stealing from me as the person.
Right, right. Yeah, it's not personal.
Not at all. So everywhere you guys are taking all your stuff way too personally. As a way to never have easy success, because when you find it hilarious, it becomes quite easy. Now, you don't have to be a laughing lunatic like me, but it helps. We all untangle, unwind, destory, delete, dissipate, and release.
Yes.
Yes. What else comes up for you, Renee?
You know, you make it seem so easy. You make it seem so easy. And it is. And I know it is that simple. Maybe that's the word, right? Yeah. You make it seem easy as I sit here in comparison, right? But it really is that simple. It's just, detaching from that, from the idea that anything is perfect, and detaching from the idea that it's personal, and detaching from the ideas that that it's like, that it's an add-on, right? Like every time we mess up doesn't mean we're more of a screw up. It's just another singular issue, just another piece of it that we can learn from.
Correct. And it's practice, right? Yeah. Like true transparency. I was a rage monster. I should be way skinnier because I used to do, I got to walk this off before I murder someone. I'll be back. Right. So that I could go.
What did you do to take the walk?
Yeah. So I would go process, right? Everywhere I want to kill that person, I unwind, untangle, dissipate, release, right? And what's right about this? What awareness am I refusing that I could be choosing? And I would just go through it so that after a while, it just became a neural pathway. It now became my new habit. It's never failure, it's learning. Because what can happen on the opposite end, if we look at the other side of the spectrum, is what happens if we're wildly successful? We won't ask the follow-up questions of what else can be polished. We're like, yeah, we go do this, we walk out with 10,000. Oh, we go do this, we walk out with blah, blah, blah. No, because what happens is you then start to regress, right? I see it like a tape measure. It just slowly starts to retract itself. So when bumps and hiccups to me equal growth, equal opportunity, equal more success. I would take a bump any day. That sounded like a drug request, but it's not, right? I've watched too much Breaking Bad. But you know what I mean? It's, if everything went perfect, we would not grow.
Right, because why would anything need to change or be, yeah.
Yeah, I used to intuitively hire certain therapists where I remember the associate manager would go, she was in charge of hiring, and I'm like, I hired someone, and they're like, why? And I'm like, because they're going to screw up some major stuff. It's going to be awesome. And then we're going to become stronger. And she's like, I hate it when you do it because I have to manage it. And I'm like, yeah, you work through that. Use the tools I've taught you. It'll make you a stronger manager. Right? Now, I only hired one at a time, only 2 times a year, right? But they would come in with what I would, perceive as a whole new level of crazy. And I would go, wow, I never realized I had to take that into account for this system or this system or this system to become better. And, knock on wood, we used to have people, when I shut my clinic down, a lot of competitors thanked me. And I'm not saying I was the best clinic. By no means was I the best clinic, right? But they would say, if we saw Lassie Healing Center on the resume, we would just hire them. And then we'd realize they weren't working with you for a reason. And I go, well, that's still two judgments that are preventing your success, because what they bring to you in regards to awareness, failures, and success models is very different than what they were bringing to me. And they also needed to do it for their own failures and success models, right? This is not using people. This is collaborating so that all of us get the opportunity to fail and learn together. Now, some will learn to choose success, and some will learn to stay stuck in failure mode. So everywhere you guys have chosen to stay stuck in failure mode so that you never want to fail, so you don't do any steps, will you destory, delete, untangle, unwind, dissipate, and release?
Yep.
Yeah.
So what do you do with success?
I keep going. How do you make it greater? How do you make it funner? How do you make it easier? How do you make it lazier? All right. Now, let me clarify lazier. Lazier is for the people I assist with, not lazier for me. Right? So I love coaching people to the degree that it's like playing Wii from the couch. Right? You show up, here's your timetable. And I just did this with a lady this morning. Here's what you need to do this week. 4 days, 20 minutes only, set a timer, walk away. Right? When you do that work, submit it to me and I'll look at what's occurred and I will comment back. Right? I'm in your back pocket. But if you're going to overdo it, then we have to slide back and fix a lot more of your mental state around following instructions for success because you're failing at that. That's your failure, so that we can get you moving forward along easier. Right? So her system for listening to instructions is what's failing, not her, the human being, the beautiful soul within.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is good.
It's fun.
Yeah. It feels fun. It feels like, you know, why wouldn't I embrace failure?
Yeah. Yeah. Or play with failure. Why embrace it? Just go play with it. Like if you're trying to do a call and all of a sudden your roof caves in, that's friggin' hilarious, because what's your plan B system?
Yeah.
Right? Like when we got robbed, and I manifested that. And I remember my team going to me, we know you created this, because we had gotten in this new jewelry and it was a minimum order. It was a new supplier. And when I got it, it was garbage. And I'm like, I cannot sell this in my store. It's not a quality. And I literally went and I call it my angel dingle. Guy, universe, get rid of this without ruining my reputation. I just need to cover my costs. Thanks. Right? That night we got robbed. And we got it all on camera with the security system. We got the license plate, everything else. And he literally walked in, kicked open all the treatment doors and that, stepped over top the deposit that the girls didn't take to the bank. They left. Did not notice the cash drawer with the float sitting there, nothing. Saw the box of jewelry, probably figured he scored, and walked out my back door. Didn't even trip an alarm. And so I was killing myself up, because when I walked in, I'm like, oh, the girls must have cleaned. All the room doors are open. I'm like, oh, they're so amazing. And then I'm like, something's not right. So I'm like, okay, I better, for whatever reason, my little angels were like, check security footage between this time. And I saw him crawl down the rock wall at the reception desk, saw him walk through all the stuff. He ate Christine's sandwich, which she accused me of, but I had security footage that it wasn't me, because I did eat staff lunches. I will admit I was that boss. If I was hungry, I ate your food, even if you labeled it. And then I saw him. So I'm like, this is awesome. So here was the benefit of it. There was one piece of security that I didn't put into place. So that was my system's failure, which was to put bars across the roof hatch. I chose not to do it. So that was the universe confirming, we can meet your requests, but you also need to get the security system done. We got to spend the morning with good looking cops in uniform. And all the beginning clients felt so bad that they overtipped the girls for their trauma. And I got rid of the stock. It was covered by my insurance. I got paid cost.
That's incredible.
So my how I purchased jewelry, that was a failure in the system that I got to fix my security system failure. And they were cute. They were cute boys that spent 2 hours with me. How could you? That was a beautiful start to a morning. It
Yeah.
was not traumatic. It was delicious,
Right.
right?
What a perspective. Yes.
Yeah. But some of those girls talked about that for weeks. And I'm like, oh, get over it. I'm going to have to go for counseling based on your trauma by listening to you. Right. So then what it became was a failure to coach my team on how to let go when stuff happens at work. So I'm like, okay. Right. Because that's the thing. We will label different things as true failures, but anything that doesn't work is a failure.
Right.
And an opportunity to grow, opportunity to get better.
Yeah.
So everything that brings up for everyone, everywhere I'm triggering the crap out of everyone. Story, delete, unwind, untangle, dissipate, and release.
Yeah.
Clear as mud.
It's crystal clear. I love it. I am just in awe. I am truly in awe. And I just find it, you know, what's the word? Affirming, right? That, these are things that I really try to do. These are perspectives I try to take. Sometimes it takes me a while to get there, but I think eventually I do, right? Um, but thinking about it on a I was going to say smaller scale, but it's also a larger scale because it's like on the every scale. Like
Yes.
every failure, every discomfort, every issue, it really is an opportunity to learn something or to change something. And then, you know, it doesn't mean that stuff doesn't happen anymore. It just means that that particular stuff that happened probably won't happen anymore. Different stuff is going to happen. Different stuff is going to come up for you because we're constantly learning and evolving. But these are the tools, right? This is that mindset shift that makes it all feel a little less heavy or a lot less heavy.
So, two things. Let's use relationships as an example. We've all had that relationship where it was his fault or her fault. They were the jerk.
We get 50% of the blame.
Right? They're the jerk. That was a relationship fail that we then, if we're not willing to take a look at what could be shifted, healed, tweaked, polished, we will then repeat. And we all have those friends, or it's us, where we have the same pattern over and over again. And then we blame the universe. We're like, what did I write into my soul record? And blah, blah, blah. I've heard it all. I've said it all. I've said, what did I write in my soul record? Up for a challenge, LOL? What the heck? But it's taking a good look and going, what needs to shift, change? What baby step within that failure that I created or co-created that I could then have a successful relationship? And when I started doing that in my own relationships, I remember when I first brought my husband home to meet my family is way more twisted than me. And I remember my dad going, you're not pulling this one over on us, Trace, because he was so vastly different than my previous patterning. So he harassed my now husband to the point where he was terrified to come out of the room he was staying in because he wasn't sure what my dad would say or do.
Oh no.
And I'm like, and I'm doing, Daddy, I love him. What do you do? Right? Like, what? But it's because I chose to keep building on my relationship failures so that I could have a successful one. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I still have to work within my marriage because sometimes I'm still failing in it.
Right.
And I will sometimes begrudgingly go, that was a failure. I'd so love for it to be his fault or at least his mother's fault and how she raised him. I'd like to wallow in that for a few minutes and then I'm willing to look at it. Right? So it's okay to wallow for a few minutes. There's been times where I would like use, because I'm not as skinny as I used to be, where I use olive oil to put my wedding ring off and I slam it on the counter like, we're divorced for right now. And I'd stand in the kitchen and fume. And I'd be like, okay, I take you back and now I'm going to go deal with this.
I like that.
Yeah.
Right now. Just right now.
Right now. This is over. Yeah. And he just, he'll look at me and shrug, and because he knows it's part of my process. So that's a relationship success, is that, I can have my process. He doesn't take it personally. He just thinks I'm crazy and we just move on. And, I think he's certain things sometimes and we move on and that kind of stuff. So that's one point. The second point is, if we take a look at manifestation, when you were talking about the different levels, okay, levels of failure, there's so many people I know who can manifest a free cup of coffee, but can't manifest a new job.
I don't know anybody like that.
Right. So let's clear that. So everywhere you have decided that everything has a hierarchy or a different level of what you're allowed and what you're not allowed in regards to manifestation, we'll throw that in there, success and failure, which then dictates whether you are good enough or allowed to. Will you story, deleted, unwind, untangle, dissipate, and release?
Yes.
If you can have a small failure and survive, you can have an epic fail and survive. If you can manifest a cup of coffee, you can manifest a new career. It's just perspective. And when the perspective isn't correct, it is laced with a judgment.
Yes.
Yes. And the judgment can be released. It can be released in the moment, or it can be released after you've wallowed a bit. It can be released after some reflection. It can be released after you rage or cry. The trick is to be willing to release it.
Mm-hmm. Willingness, yes. I'm writing that down. Willing to release.
Yeah. And sometimes, not sometimes, let me correct that. Always, when it comes to creating our success, we just have to be willing sometimes. It doesn't mean we have to choose it. Let me clarify that. When one of my business mentors, when I first went and talked to me, said, okay, sit down here, little lady. He's going to help me. He's a 70-year-old guy, very successful, crazy successful. And he goes, so the first time I went bankrupt, and I went, what? That was my biggest fear as an entrepreneur, was to go bankrupt and lose my house. Like when I opened the clinic with zero business training, true story. So I dumped $500,000 into a clinic and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna make this work. So I was willing to fail quickly because I didn't have a lot of money left over. My poor husband. Anyways, but he's like, here's what I learned and did next. When I went bankrupt the second time, here's what I learned and did next. So the beauty of that is I was able to do borrowed benefits or borrowed learning from his epic fails.
Right.
By being willing to go in and ask awareness around his failures instead of judging him for failing.
Yes. Oh my God, that's huge.
So everywhere you guys have judged, and we've all done it, so don't say you haven't. It's human nature. You've all judged others based on their failures, so therefore I can't fail because then I'll be judged. Will you destory, delete it, untangle, unwind, dissipate, and release? Yeah. Who cares if you fail? Who cares if you fail 20 times? I still have the nickname Crash because I failed at driving or parking so many times on the farm that every piece of equipment and vehicle we owned had a Tracy dent in it.